Ken Griffey Jr.'s 1989 Upper Deck card is the most iconic baseball card from the late 80s and early 90s. In an era of overproduction, this card has continued to be worth a staggering amount of money, despite the fact that there are literally thousands of these in existence. The PSA 10 Gem Mint PSA graded version is the most sought after, of course, and there are well over 3,000 of this card in existence. Yet, just a year ago, you could buy this card for under $500. But today, you'd be lucky to find one of these cards for $1,500. So what's caused that huge rise? Stimulus checks. So stimulus checks sent out by the U.S. government during April of 2020 to help Americans struggling during the coronavirus epidemic. These checks obviously meant for certainly necessities, but what's happened is these checks also have provided amounts of money to people that they wouldn't necessarily have laying around all at once. And so, of course, if you're a sports card collector and you have the chance to own literally a piece of baseball history, definitely the Ken Griffey Jr. Upper Deck is going to be the card that you're looking at. Of course, a PSA 10 is the chase card, so it would make sense that suddenly this card would double in price and then even triple in price. So the last trade of these on the pit was $1,375, and they've actually been selling for even higher than that on eBay. So of course, most people are going to be looking at their check saying, you know what, I might not want to even spend $1,000 on sports cards, so what's my alternative? Well, the grade right under PSA 10 is PSA 9, which is mint. So PSA 9, while not nearly as desirable as the Gem Mint 10, does have plenty of value with collectors. So because of the fact that this card is so common, relatively speaking, PSA 9 is not worth nearly as much. However, this is a card that in mid-April you could still pick this card up for $100, which was a nice value when you consider that it was a quarter or a fifth of the PSA 10's price. So, but now, since these stimulus checks have hit people's bank accounts, you're now seeing this card selling for almost $200. In fact, we just had one of these sell on the pit 3 days ago for $188. So, within the space of less than a couple of weeks, this card went from under $100 to just under $200. So, in these videos, we're going to be taking a look at Ken Griffey Jr. rookie cards that you can still find under $100 in PSA 9 or even PSA 10. And so one of these cards that we're going to be looking at is the 1989 Donruss Rookies PSA 9. So the PSA 10 of this card is actually worth over $200, but the PSA 9, you can still pick these up for about $20 to $25 a piece. So you could actually easily get at least 4 of these, if not 5 of these, for under $100. So most people are familiar with the 1989 Donruss Rated Rookie, which is another card we'll certainly look at this in the series of Ken Griffey Jr. rookie cards. But this card in particular is a lot more rare than the original Donruss Rated Rookie, which is, of course, also a very sought-after rookie card of Griffey Jr. So this was part of a set called the Rookies that Donruss used to release, and I think they released it for a few years. But these cards actually have held up pretty well over the years, and we're going to take a look at the PSA population of this card. So it was card number 3 in the set, and as you can see, there's 12,356 of these graded by PSA currently, and only 1,600 of those have come back a 10, and 6,400 have come back a 9. So then if you look at the upper deck, there's 73,000 total Ken Griffey Jr. rookie cards graded by PSA. That's just PSA. That's not including Beckett or SGC or any other grading company. So but then you look at the number of 10s compared to that. There's only 3,800 or so compared to 73,000 total and 24,000 9s. So, I mean, on a pure population standpoint, obviously this card is much, much rarer than the Upper Deck. Of course, the Upper Deck is a more desirable card for a wide variety of reasons that we could get into. And we did actually talk about the Upper Deck card in depth in a previous video. Which you can go look at. But in particular, I mean, this card in PSA 10 is actually relatively rare for a card of this era, and that's the reason why we actually have this card listed on the pit for a little over $200. But for PSA 9s, obviously there's far fewer of these in PSA 9 than the Upper Deck in PSA 9, and yet you can get this card very inexpensively. Really pretty much not much more for the for the cost of grading. So, buying their card raw, buying it for grading. So, this card, if you happen to get it in PSA 10, it is worth over $200. But this card, he has a much more serious disposition in this photo. It's not really a bad photo so much as he just looks very serious. Whereas he's smiling on the Upper Deck card. So, it's not nearly as an attractive a card, maybe as far as that is concerned, but from a rarity aspect, it is actually significantly rarer than the Upper Deck card. Now, that doesn't mean that this card is going to suddenly be, $100. I mean, that's unrealistic. But the idea is that, especially as a collector, and if you're looking for, long-term, appreciation of your assets, this is a card that over time certainly will appreciate. In fact, we'll take a look at the PSA 10 real quick, just to put into perspective just how much of a disparity there is between the PSA 9 and PSA 10. This is a card, and as you can see, the pit only has one holding after the one that is for sale. So this card is actually pretty rare. And you're not going to find these every day, and that's why the pit has one listed for $235. But this is a card that, even a year ago, much like a lot of the other Ken Griffey cards, junior cards, you could get a year ago you could get this card for under $100, which is kind of staggering when you think about it, considering how relatively rare this card is. As you can see, there's only 1,600 of these out there. And of course, Ken Griffey Jr., one of the most collected and sought after of all baseball players' cards. And deservedly so. He had over 600 home runs. He was, easily the most exciting player in the late 90s, the early 90s, even through the late 90s. He had a great career. Later in his career with the Cincinnati Reds, when he returned home to Cincinnati, he did suffer a lot of injuries, which certainly derailed his career and his chase of the all-time home run record. Everyone pretty much believed that he was going to end up eclipsing Hank Aaron's home run record, which, had he stayed healthy, that might have actually happened. It didn't happen, but he still had a great career, obviously, and he was very well deserving of the Hall of Fame, obviously. But yes, so, and this is one of, I think, 7 different rookie cards that we're going to be looking at in the series. So obviously, if you're going to spend $200 on a PSA 9 of an Upper Deck, would you rather have that or pay a little bit more for a much, much rarer PSA 10 Donruss Rookies card? Obviously, as I said, this card is nowhere as iconic, but it is still a Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card. It is relatively rare for the era. So, if you are looking for an alternative to buying the Upper Deck card, you certainly could look at this card. And again, over time, this card is going to be probably a much better investment just as far as scarcity is concerned. But, as a collector, we pretty much all want to have the Upper Deck card. But yeah, but anyway, so the point here is that there are alternatives. You don't necessarily have to buy the Upper Deck card just because that's what everyone else is buying. But yes, certainly the Upper Deck card has more potential to explode in price. But as you can see, even this card has doubled in price over the last year. So definitely keep that in mind. So, so what do you think of this card? Do you think that this card is, you know, worth pursuing in a PSA 10, or would you rather just own a PSA 9 for the same price as this PSA 10? I definitely love to hear your thoughts on that, and we will be back with many more market reports on these Ken Griffey Jr. rookie cards. Happy collecting.